Well, I wanted to have a conversation today because it's really important in the work that I do as the director of the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois to talk about oopses and ouches. Have you ever made an oops? Yeah, I see some nods. If anybody isn't nodding, come on. Being oops is a human thing to do. Have you ever had an ouch? It could be like you fell and you skinned your knee, or it could be a different kind of ouch. Have you had a different kind of ouch? It's gone now? That's really an interesting thing to think about. So even when we have ouches, whether they're from a scraped knee or for a deep ouch, that happens inside when our feelings get hurt, when we lose a loved one. Those are all big ouches. But what Victor reminded me of is the fact that with all the oopses and with all the ouches, something can happen. Something can change, and that is healing. There's something that can happen that happens in nature through the cycles of life and in our bodies through the cycles of healing. And we know that we really want that to happen for everyone, right? But there's also ways that we can heal when we join together in community. Now, in Unitarian Universalist congregations, we don't say like, oh, we believe this or we believe that, and you have to recite a creed or something to be a member. But instead, what do we do? What do we do? Anyone have any ideas? Covenant. Covenant. I want to sing it because it's so important. We make a covenant together. Now, a covenant is just really a set of promises we make to one another about how we want to be together. And let me tell you, it's easy to have an oops or an ouch, even when we have covenants, because we're human beings. But the covenant is that way that we can heal and repair together. Now, do you think it's easy to do that? I'm seeing some really interesting faces out there. I bet y'all online are doing the same thing, like, no, it can be really hard. But when that healing can happen, it can almost feel like we've dipped into something deeper. We've dipped into that human potential. What I like to think of as that network of hands and hearts that's greater than the sum of its parts. We become part of the more than when we call one another in with love, when we are willing to share when there's been an oops, when we're willing to share when there's been an ouch, and when we're willing to be open to those processes of covenanting and re-covenanting together again and again. This is how we build a life of love in community together. Agape love. So, I am going to invite this side of the room to speak the first part of the litany that we're going to do of oopses and ouches together. And then you're going to do the other side. I will direct you. And this is something that a member from Second Unitarian of Chicago, Atina Danner, wrote. And it actually comes up from the tradition of Young Religious Unitarian Universalists, which was a youth group that is a very important part of our Unitarian Universalist history and culture. So, join me in the litany. Trust me, we can do this. Let's go to the first slide. You begin with the first one. I receive your ouch with openness and curiosity. I receive your oops with acceptance and empathy. I offer my ouch with hope and trust. I offer my oops with humility and courage. I release my ouch with immeasurable faith. I release my oops with purpose. I release your ouch with promise. I release your oops with my eyes and my heart open. So, when we're able to create community together with an oops and an ouch, it's something that actually allows us to recognize the beauty that's in each of us. So I want to invite you to think about who is someone in your life, or maybe it's you, who needs to hear this song today, to be reminded about how beautiful you are, how worthy you are of love, or how beautiful they are, or how worthy they are of love. So let us join in singing together twice through, How Could Anyone? How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Good morning. I'm Emi Tanabe, and I use she, her pronouns. Lonnie Smith, who holds a Master's of Arts in Christian Ministry and Restorative Arts from North Park Seminary, has been caged for 34 years in Illinois state prisons. Currently locked up at Robinson Prison in Robinson, Illinois, after being transferred from the now closed Stateville Prison. Lonnie is a scholar, activist, who serves on the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois Advisory Council. This reading is from him. The Mirror. Stateville Correctional Center is a tomb that contains the convicted, whether guilty or not. And the only object that one has to see themselves with is the mirror. A mirror is no respecter of person. The distorted view can be a true reflection of self. The mirror is a constant companion in one's solitude, and it gives solace in seeing a familiar face that keeps you company in the loneliest times. The gravity of being buried alive in a place that holds so many tortured souls makes you wonder, are you still among the living? But the mirror confirms you're still alive. The mirror gives you vision beyond the 10-foot by 6-foot concrete box and iron bars to see dull surfaces intended to dehumanize the soul and suppress our emotions. In wonder, a select few can see glimpses of beauty and sometimes capturing one profound image can give you peace throughout an entire day. In a place designed to break you psychologically and spiritually, we find community in the human interaction of conversing with our next-door neighbor. With the mirror held out the century-old bars, we can talk face to face with a fellow captive about nostalgia, sorrow, and hopes for tomorrow. This is what builds community in the reflections of a mirrored life.
Thank you, Remy, for the wonderful reading. My name is Keith Talley. I am short. I'm socially defined as African American. I have on Islamic garb, which is black and beige. So, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just want to say this before I begin. I came in, and one of the things that I've observed with this privilege I have of traveling throughout the state with Reverend Allison and visiting various Unitarian communities throughout the state is how welcoming each community is, right? And so when I came in here and I saw your box, the box that you have at the door with the religious headgear, and I saw a kufi. That's an Islamic headgear for Muslims. I immediately felt welcomed, right? And I know that's the intent, but it just made this was a space of gathering, and I was welcome. And so whoever made that decision, but I know it was right on point, but I know that's part of the principles of UU. So the poem, all right? I don't know Lonnie. I didn't get a chance to meet Lonnie. Just give you my background. I was just released from being caged for 17 years. I wasn't my first stint, all right? I've spent probably the vast majority of my adult life going in and out, all right? That's the point, to never give up on anyone, right? So I never met Lonnie, but I met plenty of brothers like him, individuals who have embarked on an aggressive agenda of self-development and made a commitment to serve and give back and have impact on those within their circle of influence, right? And so the beautiful thing about the prison ministry is that it expands an individual's circle of influence, right? Because it serves as a bridge, letting an individual who is caged to have impact with individuals outside of that cage. And so that's one of the beautiful things about the prison ministry and the opportunity to read that poem. The reason why I'm speaking on this poem is that when I was released, I went to Second Unitarian service, and it was out of my just appreciation for Unitarian showing up in my life, right? I had the opportunity to have 2 pen pals, right? We would later grow to have this enriching relationship where we've become family. You know, family is not always biological, right? And they become a family of choice, right? And so when I was released, I felt a sense of indebtedness, right, to show up, right, to this institution that was there for me in that dark hour and played such a pivotal part in my personal transformation. And so anyway, I'm at the service, watching Reverend Allison do her thing. They had a reading of the poem, which hit me in the mouth, right? I began to just cry, weep, cry. Now, I'm not prone to that, but I was just overtaken. And so after the service, I wanted to know why did it had such an impact on me. Like, why did that poem have such a moving impact on me? And when I reflected on it, I saw that it was therapeutic, right? It was a cathartic experience, receiving this art, right, that was being shared from someone who I didn't know, who I shared this experience with, and now I was on the outside being healed and restored, right, from this piece of art that was shared with me. And it made me think about the mirror. And so I just want to share with you a more detailed description about the mirror, right? Because the mirror is a ubiquitous piece of instrument in every cell in prison, right? I mean, if you broke your mirror or lost your mirror, I mean, there's immediate anxiety, right? You know, and so most of the prisons, like Stateville and the older prisons, are Civil War aged buildings, right? So I want to put you in the mindset of Shawshank Redemption, right, with the bars and the old limestone buildings. And so, and what we used to do is take a mirror. Now, this is an actual mirror. We don't actually get a mirror, right? So for safety reasons, you can understand that. We get a reflective substance, right? And it has this clown mirror effect, right? Depending on how it's bent, you know what I mean? And so not only do you lose your freedom, imagine not seeing yourself for 17 years. You lose the ability to recognize yourself. And because all you see is this warped image. So anyway, so what we do is stick the mirror out the bars, you know, and it allows us to do some things, right? It allows you to get provisions, right? Because what people really don't know, prison really is really a community environment. You know, individuals who are chained together become brothers. You know what I mean? And it's really a supportive environment. And so we share things, food, books, whatever we have. And so part of getting those things is called fishing. So you put so they throw the line out and you stick the mirror out and you got your hook and you sling it out to try to get the line. But this is the means in which you acquire or gain access to things that you don't have in that space. So from a survival standpoint, it has significance and meaning. More spiritually, when you converse with someone. So if I'm talking to someone in the cell next to me, right, and we can hear each other, right, perfectly well. But the mirror allows us to have a conversation and connect with each other's eyes. Truly a human expression, right, that we're communicating, yet we're connecting because we're looking at the eyes of this brother that we're communicating with. And so, again, it allows us to express our humanity. For me personally, it played a part in my transformation because there was a point in my life where I had to, I reached an inflection point where I had to make a decision. And my experience with UU, prison ministry, was part of that. See, I had two pen pals, two individuals who didn't know me, who decided to sacrifice their time, energy, resources, their energy to share with me in whatever minimal capacity that is, right? And I couldn't really receive that, right? My selfishness and self-centeredness couldn't allow me to receive that for what it was worth without asking, what is this for me? So when I got to the point where I knew that I couldn't go forward in my life with whatever that is, it's keeping me from receiving love, right? I mean, the children used to send us cards every Christmas time, right? And signed, and people in the congregations throughout the state used to send us cards saying that they're thinking about you during this time, you know. And here I was, this 55-year-old grown man sitting on the bed just crying, right? You know, because some kid wrote me and said, you're important and you matter, right? You know, and so I got to that point where I had to identify and confront that which was in me, was keeping me from love, and my mirror played a part in that. Because I had that conversation, even though it was warped, twisted, it wasn't actually me that I was seeing, but it was me that I was seeing, if you know what I mean. And so I had that conversation, that battle with myself, with my mirror. So for me, the mirror had much more than just a practical significance. It had a real impact and significance with regard to my personal transformation. And so now when I look through all that after I processed it, I see why when I heard the poem, it hit me so hard. When you leave prison, right, you get an opportunity to give back your state property. They want their mattresses, their bed, their clothes. What you don't get a chance to get back, and what they don't take, is the trauma, the state-sponsored trauma. And so you take that with you when you leave. And so it was just refreshing to have an opportunity to have that experience with the poem, this cathartic, therapeutic experience of healing. Pivoting to the prison ministry. Again, like I said, I get the opportunity to travel with Reverend Allison throughout the state and talk about the prison ministry. And this is a privilege for me personally because I get to pour into that which I drank from. Right, and that's a wonderful privilege that many people don't get, and so I just want to share with you that if you're looking to have an impact, right, you can't beat the personal impact you have through prison ministry, through the Pen Pal program, pound for pound, because people change institutions. Right? Bringing people into the circle of love changes people. The prison ministry provides an opportunity to serve not only as a bridge, but it serves as an opportunity of healing, of restoration, and building the individuals who will be confronting who will be helping making the change for systemic change. We had, this is kind of off topic, but I work as the reentry coordinator at Phalanx Family Services. I connect individuals with jobs and training. So if someone gets out, they want to go to training, they want to be a truck driver, we connect them with a truck driving school, pay for the training, and then we connect them with a job when they get out. So this is called workforce development. And so we had an event yesterday. If you didn't know, Governor Pritzker proclaimed April as Second Chance Month. And so many of the reentry organizations this month had different events. And so we had a wonderful event yesterday. About 50 people from the community, right, who were interested, looking to get engaged, came, and we had a wonderful event. I brought that up for a reason, and I just forgot the reason I brought it up. But I wanted to say this, that if you're looking to have an impact, this is why I brought it up, all right? Change, particularly changing of systems, right? And this transformative justice that we're not talking about, not just restorative justice, but we want to go a step further and confront and address the reason of the harm in the first place, systemically. That work needs soldiers. That work needs individuals on the front line. Who better to be on the front line than individuals who are disproportionately and overwhelmingly impacted by those harms? Who knows what those harms taste like, smell like, look like? Right? To empower those individuals, it takes other individuals, all right, right, to bring them into the circle of love where they can be educated, right, and transformed, organized, and mobilized. So the start of all that, right, is the bridge that the prison ministry provides and what you can provide if you chose to connect with someone in a safe manner, because you are dictating the terms, right, and connecting with someone who you can have a transformative effect on, who can go on to have a transformative effect on society. And so, again, thank you for thanks for the kufi. Thank you for the religious hat up top, right? I'll never forget that, right? And thank you for graciously having us and me. Thank you.
What a gift it is to be with you and offer a brief reflection about our opportunities to refuse to abandon one another. So I want to share a picture of one of my comrades. You could go to the next slide. Monica Cosby, who reminds us that solidarity is a gift, that being in relationship with folks and companioning people during hard times in solidarity is a gift where all are transformed, which I think we heard about a little bit from Keith's testimony about our Pen Pal program. She also invites us to this idea that we refuse to abandon one another. And she talks about, especially, she's quoted in a book called Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Mariam Kaba. And in this book, she talks about much of what Keith reflected about the community of women that she is still in her heart a part of from Logan Women's Prison when she was caged there for 25 years. Where in this community of women, they would find ways to refuse to abandon one another. Because in these fascist authoritarian regimes that are prisons, where they are told in action and word that they are worth nothing and that they deserve to be punished and that they should be abandoned and isolated, Monica reminds us that all of us have the opportunity to say something different, to refuse to abandon one another. Monica always talks about the resilience of the women and her friends inside, where if somebody was having a hard day, a little extra money would go to make sure that Ethel got her coffee that morning, because it wasn't just for Ethel, y'all, it was for everyone. That one person's well-being was wrapped up entirely in the well-being of all the people around. Just like my liberation is bound up in all of yours. Do you see how this preaches? Are you seeing the parallels? And how now we find ourselves with discussions politically around the rise of fascism, white nationalism, oligarchies, and we have people who are deeply experienced with how to not only survive, but to find ways to actually thrive under these regimes. And those are people who are currently incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. And that those folks who are at the front lines are the people that we should not only refuse to abandon, but that we have opportunities to listen and learn from. So, I don't know if that's much hope or not for the time. Let me take you to the next slide and show you a picture of me with my friend Lonnie. Lonnie and I have been pen pals since I began the prison ministry as the director in January 2020. Very soon after, I was hearing and reading his work, and I realized that this was someone I needed to be in direct relationship with. He is now caged in Robinson, Illinois, and I'll be making a trip to Robinson, Illinois in July to visit him, because it is a very far trip. And many prisons exist in this way. They're in rural communities that had been abandoned by the state, right? And by corporations. They were extracted from, and then prisons became the only solution for economic viability of a town. So it's all wrapped up together in terms of these interconnected webs. And part of what we'll do in a training coming up in May is talk about confronting criminalization, but also lifting up and naming the ways that the prison industrial complex has woven itself all around us. Also ways that there are wonderful groups of people and organizations that are finding ways to disrupt that web and to build up life-giving institutions that really live into that world we dream of, a world where we have education, healthcare, where we have gender-affirming care for our children, all kinds of the things that we dream of, where we think about what heaven on earth might be. And I have learned so much from my relationship with Lonnie. Just this morning on the way here, he called because he knew I was coming, and he always calls when I'm on the road. And he was just describing something that echoes something that Keith was reflecting about. He was describing how he, as an elder, because he's been caged for so long, who also has been through restorative arts and restorative justice trainings, is finding ways in this moment in time. There's a lot of frenetic, angry energy at where he is caged at Robinson. And so he has found himself having conversations with people, reminding them, you don't need to get in a fight, it's gonna be okay. And so again, like, this is the impact of what happens when people on the outside pour resources into the inside and form relationships. I'll take you to the next slide. Our another advisory council member is Patrice Lumumba Daniels, who reminds us about how we can continue to hold on to visions even though we can't see them in the present. Patrice is someone who works with us and reminds us that the most important thing to do is to remind ourselves of each other's humanity and to continually remind everyone, legislators, people you have coffee with, of the humanity of people in prison. Patrice is the one who wanted us to sing that song that we just sang, and he also chose the closing hymn for us. Next slide. And this is actually a visit where I wanted to remind my state senator about the humanity of my friend Lonnie. And before Stateville closed, this is my state senator, Laura Fine, flying under the radar in her t-shirt and jeans when she spent nearly 2.5 hours getting to know my friend Lonnie. And it's that kind of relationship, human to human, that can allow us to recognize the humanity of one another and to live more deeply into our noblest values. I'll take you to the next slide. And there are all kinds of ways that people show up. You'll see on the bottom there's this strange collection of feet, like what's going on there? That's a peace circle. And that's a part of a restorative justice practice where people sit in circles around a common flame and get to know one another, build trust with one another, so that there are those times when the oopses and ouches happen that we can find ways of healing and repair. Don't you love how Unitarian Universalism and all of our values are so linked up with other cool things that have been going on for generations? And ways that we can show up. Thinking about long-termers who are looking for clemency. We had people show up to Springfield for Free Bernina, people showing up at their legislators' offices. There are so many ways that we are invited these days to show up. But what I also want to remind us of is that maybe you didn't come here to hear about prison ministry. But the important thing is that ain't it good to know that you have this congregation, an organized presence of love and care here in McHenry, Illinois? Like, what would this place be like without you? How you have continued to refuse to abandon the people in this community and area and in your neighborhood who need your loving presence. And I bet because your congregation has been here, people have benefited, but also the people in this congregation have benefited by showing up on the side of love again and again. And so we're reminded, and what I get the beautiful privilege of doing is taking that moment to hold up the mirror to you and to remind you of how beautiful you are. And that when we take our values into places where there is nothing but hate and fear and grief, our theologies matter tremendously. To be reminded of our inherent worth and dignity, and to be reminded of our interconnectedness. So I think of Patrice, who wanted this song, You've Got a Friend, and I think of the lyrics, ain't it good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you, yes, and desert you, and take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. Friends, we can't let them, and we will hold on to our souls for dear life, building connections in congregational life as spiritual friends and honoring the best of what it means to be human, where no one is disposable and where we all have a place to lean when we're weary. So with UUPMI, on behalf of our organization, we invite you to expand your notion of community. And with thanks to so many of you who have organized a Unitarian Universalist presence inside, and for those who have gotten out. And that I get to hold up the mirror for you so that you can see your beauty and that we can visibilize those who are locked up. And as my dear friend Lonnie writes, this is what builds community in the reflections of a mirrored life. May it be so. Amen. And now we will join in singing and leaning into that idea of organized presence and refusing to abandon one another with that reminder that we can lean on each other. Am I in the correct spot for leaning on? Oh. That was so good, too. It was such a good segue, but I messed it up. Well, it looks like I'm showing my humanity. I'll just sit down and thank you for this moment.